Okay, thank you, Shaka. Yeah, welcome everybody. So today I'm gonna talk a little bit about how do I make the art for Edge City. As you might see, we have a lot of these posters all around, and I'm the designer behind all the art. And I utilize various range of AI tools in my creative process. A lot of these tools are still emerging, so I just want to create a space to share with you my creative journey, and I'm here to answer any questions you have. And if you feel inspired to make some similar Edge City art, we can jam about ideas in the end. Um, Okay, so I will show about a minute of the work that I've done before Edge. I have a background as a game developer, so I've been working with video games, 3D world, um, building 3D, 2D aesthetic and interactive experiences for a while. So I'm just gonna show this reel for a minute. Okay, let me see if I can. This is from 2 years ago. There's some music games here. Okay, I can stop right here. But basically, before I started working with Edge City, I've spent a lot of time with game engines and working with kind of immersive experiences. And I think a lot of the concept that I use in Edge City also is inspired from the world of video games and virtual world. Let me see, how do I, oops, okay. Yeah, so a little bit about the creative process. I summarize it into these three chunks. So you always start with a concept, and then from the concept, you develop what's called an aesthetic, and then you dive into some sort of technique. So, and then with today's AI tool, a lot of the technique part can be like 10x, 100x of the speed of where it was 5 years ago. So let's say 5 years ago, if you want to create something, you need to kind of like learn how to paint, and learn how to model, and learn how a lot of these super time-consuming hardcore programming works. And today with AI, it's the first time kind of in history that we can have an idea and visualize it relatively soon. There's still a lot of limitations, like AI will get things wrong. You know, you kind of have to know how to work with AI and fix it, improve it. But the creative process more or less stays the same. And the difference is that just today, all of us individuals are very much empowered by these tools. So yeah, so using Edge City as a case study, how to make art for it. When I was kind of given the task of making visuals for this project, the number one step is to start with the concept. So what really is Edge City? How does it make you feel? And how can we really like describe it to words? So I'm gonna show a little bit of the work in progress Figma. This is a massive, massive work in progress. We have many, many slides. But where I started is starting to gather a bunch of quote from Edge City. You know, Edge City is a society incubator. It's prototyping the future. It's a place for you to find your people, a living laboratory. And then the branding or the proposition of it is like it's utopian, it's super optimistic, frontier, high tech, family fun. It's also super sporty. And then I think I was thinking of the idea of a future optimism. So, you want images where you look at it, you're like, I feel good. This is great. It's very vibrant. But at the same time, there's like sci-fi elements to it. So high-tech things. And but it's not also too high tech. It's kind of human because it's a village. People get in here. You kind of like get to have meals with each other. You have families and kids. So the color and scheme should kind of be like generally warm, very vibrant, and then we can have some sort of paper texture to make it feel very human touched instead of like completely AI generated. So from here, I started putting a ton of mood boards together and looking more into the existing aesthetic that are capturing this specific vibe. So there's things like solar punk, like retrofuturism, utilitarianism, and then let me see if I can find, and then we have feedback from some of the design work that the team personally really love, like these are some of the branding from Finding the Common, which the team says, this is a really good design. How can we take elements from here? Like another example is from Othership, from the Sana project in New York, and some of the design language they use. So I've just been collecting all of these and putting it together and kind of see what can we take from there. A few mood boards I've put together before getting started is this Nike Run Club aesthetic. When you see the aesthetic from Nike Run Club, you feel super energetic. It's very inspiring. And then it has these high contrast text, like bold text. And then another trend that's been picking up is this utilitarian design where it feels like very minimal, but also spacey and feels trendy and sexy. And then there's this design that I think was super trendy last year from the AI tool Perplexity, where they launched these really beautiful, very kind of mystical AI images. And then the hidden language here, it's like learning, search like never before and all these color contrast. So yeah, especially something like this, build tomorrow, today, like feels very optimistic. It's technical, it's kind of space agey. And so like in the very early kind of concept to aesthetic process, there kind of isn't really a wrong answer here. You want to just be able to really open your aperture and just collect as many interesting imagery as you want to really, and then put it together in front of you. So like you're soaking this information in and you kind of training your own aesthetic model inside your little brain to like fine tune your ability to curate some sort of aesthetic. So that's kind of the number one step. And then from there, what I started doing is I would take some of these images and then put it into Midjourney and then kind of remix them. So let me see if I can find an example that does that. I wish I pulled this up earlier. So let me see if I can find some good remix examples. So let's say I want to make a computer, and then I can put a bunch of images in there that's existing, or like let's say like a beautiful bundle of flowers, and then I can find some existing images. Let's say I have these images I generated from before. Midjourney has this tool, this function where you can use image prompts, and that gives an image that basically remixes an existing image and make your new image look very similar to the existing image. So let's say I can say a vintage computer surrounded by beautiful bundles of colorful flowers in front of blue sky. And then we can see, I'm gonna prompt it and just take a second for it to show up. And then I'll do another prompt without any of these images, just so we can get a side-by-side comparison to see the difference in outcome. So while we're waiting for that, let me see, I think, yeah, and then while we're waiting for that, I'm gonna talk a little bit about different techniques. So Midjourney is by far the easiest to use AI tool because it is very robust. It has a massive, massive AI model, and it's fine-tuned on a lot of very stylistic art. And you'll find out if you try a bunch of things like VO3, like ChatGPT and Midjourney. Midjourney always output the most picturesque, colorful, vibrant images because the tool is just very well trained for that. So it's very easy to use. Most of the art I make here is coming from Midjourney, although a lot of them, I also use different AI tools to kind of like fix things up after I make a generation. One example, oh, I can see, okay. So the prompt we finished just now, the one that I put in a few image prompts here, have like a very specific kind of like style compared to the prompts that they don't. So this is just to give you an idea on like when you're getting started to generate an aesthetic. Like this one has all these little glitches and these little bit-sized floaty things that I didn't really prompt, but it's in my reference image. So it creates this specific aesthetic, and it has these faces because my reference image here have some faces. And then these images don't because it's just a pure prompt of a bunch of words. So I would say if you want to get started with having fun, like making some sort of aesthetic, just give yourself the permission to have as much freedom as you want, and just go put two pieces together, mesh it together, and see what comes out of it. Let me see if I can find another example. Oh, no, feather. Let's see. So one example here is the Plumia image, which you can see over there. Plumia is a partner that we have, and we need to make a kind of an aesthetic image for them. So I started searching for the official branding of the Plumia organization. So you go on their website, you see that they have this little thing. They have two feathers, they have a globe. So what I did is I did a screenshot of this, and then I put into Midjourney as a guidance image. Like over here you can see, I put this image in, just this one, as like an image prompt. And then I added a bunch of words. So vibrant, colorful, bright, pink, yellow, blue, pastel detailed, realistic oil painting, a glowing earth globe. So I prompted the glowing earth globe because I think this looks like, I think it would look really cool if we have feathers and earth in the center. So I basically described what I want, and I added some detail, like this is a technical color pencil drawing, looks like Miyazaki, it's very vibrant colors. And then you use this as a guidance, and then it will start to come up with things like earth and feather. And then the first few exploration wasn't quite exactly what I wanted. Let me see if I can find the earliest. Yeah, I think the earliest were something. Okay. This is kind of the earliest. Oh, this is an animation. This is one of the earliest, I think, where I used this image, and I used a bunch of random images I found online as style references. So let's say we have this one. We have this one, which is just like an explosive image, because I had the vision of like an earth and a bunch of feather and then some explosive stuff going on. So I just searched explosive art and I found this image, and I used it as a reference. And then I found this globe. I don't know if this actually did anything, but I thought it would be really cool if we can have some sort of geodesic dome going on. And then I put all of them together, and then you see all these four images that kind of have a little bit of similar, yeah, and another Edge City Island image. They kind of have similar color tones. And then so you kind of can expect if you put all these colors together, the output will follow these colors. And then I started typing a prompt, and then the prompt to give me like the first image, something like this, which is cool, but it kind of isn't exactly cohesive with the rest of aesthetic that we want. You know, it's a little bit too tropical, too vibrant. So what you gotta do is just you have to just do a ton of trials and error. I could do another prompt, and I find out something like this. This is really cool. And then on Midjourney, there's this very option, which is when you find an image that you really like, you can ask Midjourney to make images similar to this one with slight changes. So what I did is I made variants of these, and then it comes up with more variants, and then I made variants of those variants, and I just keep going, explore with different mood boards, and eventually at some point, and there's a ton of explorations, at some point it came up with like one image that I think will work really, really well. And then in the end, I use that and animate it, and that's the final image. So you're kind of like working with AI as intelligence, but you're relying on your own aesthetic to really filter out what do you think look the most, the prettiest. And so that is one way of doing it. Another really useful tip that I want to give is using mood boards. So mood board is this new it's a new feature that Midjourney came up, but it has been around with AI tools for a while. In other AI model, this is called something like fine tuning. So you have a model and you're fine tuning the model by giving it a specific taste. So in Midjourney mood board, what you can do is you can give it a ton of random images, and then just to make and then use that as a mood board to make sure that Midjourney will only come up with images that look like your image, the image references you give it. So one example is that I've generated all these floating islands for all the past edge cities. Like we have one for Thailand, for Argentina, South Africa, and then they all look like a triangle shape. But historically, when I was generating these island images, what I have to do is I have to like describe very detailed, oh, this is a floating island, it has to look like a triangle. And sometimes when it doesn't come out the way I want, I have to Photoshop to make it look like a floating island. So it's a lot of work. But after I've generated enough floating island, I can put it into a mood board and then just see, just so everything I prompt that have this mood board selected would be more likely to look like a floating island. Let me see if I can find. Let me see if I can find view creations. Okay, let's see if I can find. So the creations coming out of these floating island, basically it allows me to make infinite amount of floating islands of all kinds, and then I can just keep iterating on them again and again to find the final island. Let's say the island we have for Patagonia ended up looking like where is it? Like this one. This one ended up being kind of the favorite that me and the rest of the team picked. But then throughout the process, I have to come up with a lot of floating islands, and some of them look kind of cool. You know, some of them doesn't have the top cropped off. Some of them look like maybe kind of weird. So it like people say AI you can one click and generate everything, but it's still not quite there yet. You can kind of use AI to start these seeds, and then you still have to like work with AI again and again to find the final version that you really love. And let's say if you land up on an image like this, you want to use it, you still have to go into Photoshop and kind of like delete this little area, delete the background, maybe add a little bit of thing. So for this image, we generated, I think, most of the shape that I really like. And then in the end, we went to Photoshop, we manually added a saddle here and added a little hot tub. And over here, I went to Photoshop and then I cropped out and I was like, add a bunch of climbing people, to add a little bit of detail, because without these detail, this wouldn't look super edge city. I also manually added out the solar panel because, sometimes you tell the AI to generate solar panel on cabin and AI is just not going to be able to do it. It's just too complicated. So, so I would say the process a little bit like, let me see. Oh yeah, I think this is the original image, something like this, and then you just have to kind of manually add a bunch of things. So these are some of the process I use. Another really helpful way to explore is in Midjourney. There's this explore tab, and you just get to see what other people are creating. So yeah, Decca, do you have a question? Yeah. I add them with AI in Photoshop. So let me open up Photoshop. Photoshop is actually really handy. Um, I can use another example to see. I can quickly demonstrate how Photoshop works with AI. Let's say we have this one image. Um, so I have this image with a fire pit in the middle of the UFO. I can kind of find the original image for this because I just generated recently. UFO. Oh God, it's a lot of UFOs. UFOs. So yeah, when it was generated, I got this image, but then there's all these like random UFOs in the back that doesn't look that great, and I wanted to remove it. So I went to Photoshop and just circle and remove it. So for example, Photoshop has this really neat feature called Firefly. What you can do is that you can like add, you can circle out like this area, let's say. Sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't. Let's say I've circled out this chair and the thing, and I can say an alien sitting on this chair. And you want to be very descriptive, green, an alien sitting on this chair. And then let's see. Sometimes the result is extremely good. Sometimes the result is horrible. So we need to see how well it does. And then you kind of have just to do it again and again to get. And sometimes if it really doesn't do well, you kind of use your paintbrush to actually like paint out the little details. They're pretty good. You see, this is, and then it gives you a few different options. This one's great. Yeah, and then you can use this, but then it kind of like terminates this part of like the glass. It kind of makes it less realistic, so you kind of just have to keep fixing it. Maybe you can say something like over here, say something like add glass reflection. So then they will add a reflection. So if you, because right now the alien feels like it's standing outside of the UFO, but these are kind of the last 10% of the work that can really make your work stand out a little bit, because as AI tool is getting very prevalent, it's super easy to generate things with AI. You know, everyone can do it. Oh God, this is really bad. The reflection is. Anyways, maybe we don't have time for that, but that was a pretty good result from just one prompt in Photoshop. Yeah. Cool. And yeah, I think this is the newest Photoshop. Um, it's what? Yeah, you can just type it in. And also, whoops, also it changes if you, it's also based on how, like, what's the range of area that you circle in, for example. For example, if I want to be like over here, I just circle a tiny little spot and I can say something like remove laptop. And then it can just more precisely kind of remove that one part of the thing that you don't want. And yeah, it's extremely helpful, because even 3 years ago, you would need to like manually paint all the things and it takes forever and you don't get it right and it looks weird. And now with these tools, it really accelerates. Okay, now there's no more laptop. It really accelerates your creative process by a ton. And it just allows us to get from ideation to effect very, like a lot faster. Okay. And so there's also, so aside from Midjourney and Photoshop, there's also a bunch of experimental AI tools that I've been exploring. And some of them are really insane. So I want to talk a little bit about this tool called Krea. So Krea is a startup. They are very small, and they're growing really well. They have created this tool called Real Time, and this is a logo I was making for Protocol Labs. So we can see like Real Time tool is incredible because it allows you to paint in real time. Let me just remove this, and then prompt at the same time. So what I can do is, let me see, a white background, and I can just start painting, let's say, like an orange sun. Oops. Let me make the brush a bit larger. And then you can kind of paint and prompt at the same time. So right now I can prompt an orange sun over blue sky. And then you can start to, let me change the background blue. And then you can adjust the AI strength to make it to really kind of change how much your prompt looks like this thing. Okay, and then you can also prompt, let's say, an orange submarine under the ocean and surrounded by tropical fishes. And you can say oil painting, extremely realistic. Or you can say like, and then it would just prompt it out. This is called Krea. It's Krea. And then I can keep adding to it, and like something like here, like an orange submarine robot fish. And then you can kind of like, if you lower the AI strength, it's gonna kind of like not, it's gonna really try to follow your painting. If you increase the AI strength, it's gonna try to, like just imagine things. And yeah, I've been making something really fun with this tool, because with this tool, it actually allows traditional artists who love to draw to be able to really amplify their drawing rather than only relying on prompt. So for example, let me see, I can show the example reel of a piece of painting I made. So I made this painting before coming here. And with this one, I had a concept and I was like, how can I use AI to make this? It's kind of like hard because it's very detailed. There's all these lines. They need to be really, really precise. I can't just prompt an AI and tell it to come up with a line with a width of 2 pixels and it's absolutely symmetrical. It's very, very, very precise. So I explored with using Krea to help me kind of create this a bit faster. So I recorded this little reel, which is really helpful to play. Let's see. So I started with kind of hand sketching some of these things. And then I started prompting like mountains, Patagonia mountains, cliffs, and things like that. I started generating these images with Krea. And then I put the images in my iPad and I just traced it to get the exact shape of the mountain and the glacier. And then in the end, like trace all the elements and then clean up all the details and then kind of refine it so that I can still remain full control of the style. And then Krea also has this very neat feature called UpRes. So you put over here, you put like a low res image there, and then it will just help you make it really, really sharp. It can go up to 8K, and then you can finalize it as the painting. So this is something that I found to be extremely helpful in the creative process. If you want to have like remain total control, you can still leverage this AI tool to kind of help you, like generate new ideas. Another recent, let me see if I can find it. Another recent use case that I was exploring is something like this, where I'm trying to create an image with 2 side faces on the side of a painting. And instead of actually manually drawing it out, what I did is I made this very not pretty thing at the left corner. I just made this painting. It's very, very rudimentary with just shapes. And then by prompting with Krea, you're able to get a super detailed face, and then you can tell it, oh, yeah, I want this face to look like a Persian princess, or I want it to look like a man. And then you can kind of refine it this way. Cool. And then I recorded this little tutorial on how to use Midjourney to make Edge City specific things. But I think a lot of this we already kind of went through. But yeah, I guess I'll play it. It's very short. So for people that are very interested in using the specific Edge City style to make art for their events, I've kind of publicized all the mood board that I trained for Edge City, and they're in this tweet. This is linked in the Telegram in the Agartha House channel. I posted it right here. So if you want to play with Midjourney, you can just copy paste these styles, and then you will be able to have the style references of a bunch of Edge City themed art. And I can show, I think I did some experiments earlier. So before coming here, I was trying to prompt a few images about a bunch of people working out. So if you go into Midjourney and you just type in a bunch of friends doing push-ups, this is like the default of, it's very photorealistic. And then if you want it to be a bit stylized by using different mood board, this is when I used the mood board of Edge Esmeralda. It's super vibrant. It has this like oil painting kind of aesthetic. And it also, when you use the mood board, you can go into settings and change the amount of stylization. So if you have less stylization, it will follow less of the mood board. If you have more, it will be more aesthetically different. So yeah, and then these is a different, I think these I need to change the stylization a bit more. But something like this is something that you can do. And if you're interested, you can come here and find all these styles and kind of just paste it over. Yeah?
Okay. On Figma, the mood boards that you had
Mm-hmm.
for like the Nike Run Do you use a tool to generate those mood boards, or is it like just Pinterest?
Yeah, Pinterest, and those are I find online. Yeah, so I think Pinterest is extremely helpful. Almost, I would treat it as a pre-Midjourney mood board, kind of like you're kind of like generating mood board for yourself. So let's say I have a design mood board that I just go and find a bunch of really interesting elements. And then one really helpful is the blueprint mood board. Let me see if I can find it. Oh yeah, this was one of my favorite one. It's a biophilia mood board. So it has all these really cool looking thing that's like super squishy in between tech and organic things. And then on Pinterest, once you find an image that you really love, it just algorithm gives you something very similar. So you can keep diving into these and then refining your mood board. Um, s- yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, I mean that I think if you want AI to completely generate a new branding just based on a few images you pick, it might. I don't think the tools is quite there yet. You might
Mm.
need a designer to kind of help you like pick the text, pick the font because AI is really good, or at least the current tools. I'm not saying the future there can be one. Someone might be building an AI tool that just does all the branding thing for you. I haven't seen anyone that works really well. And right now, AI tool is really good at AI tools are not that great at combining text and image generation in one cohesive style yet. So let's say if you let me try to see if I can find an example. Let's see poster. Yeah, so let's say you want a cohesive brand and you want to find things like posters like this with text and then background, and then if you feed all of these into an AI model to fine tune it, it might not end up looking that great, but it could be coming. But right now, I think the technology isn't mature yet. So if you want to like generate a new aesthetic for your company and having the font, having the color, and having the imagery, I think I would recommend kind of tackling them as a separate task, like find the right font and find the right color and find the right imagery with different AI tools maybe, and then in the end combining it yourself to figure out what works and what doesn't. And there's a deeper theory, with graphic designer, UI designer, where they go like there's deeper theory in what font works with what color, it works with what images, that a lot of AI tools aren't ready to really like solve that for you yet. But there are some really cool resources out there, like Canva, and is pretty good at kind of giving you ready to make aesthetics. You can also check out, I think a lot of aesthetic on Framer on the web making tool is really great. There's also a few Foundry services, so like people that just do font. This one is my favorite, Pangram. You can see they launched this font that's kind of free to use for small scale personal case. And then you can see that inside of every font they launch, they make a whole branding asset.
That's cool.
Along with the font. Like this is a font, but then they make a whole design with it, kind of show you how this font is used. And yeah, and then like
It's
you can download it for free, and you can. That's the what? The old data font? What do you mean? Yeah. There's a lot of these websites. I don't really know all of them, but I know this one, and I really love this one. Did I answer your question? Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
And then also one other question I had was like, pro plans and total cost for all these tools that you use.
It probably sums up to about $200 a month.
Okay, it's actually not that bad.
Yeah, it's not that bad. I think a lot of this, there's also open source solutions out there. There's this tool called Comfy UI, which is user interface for Stable Diffusion, which is completely open source. And the drawback of that is that you have to kind of pay for compute, which is, it's cheap. if you can figure out a cloud service. But to get it to look really, really great, you need to like go super deep into figure out the right setting and all that. Like Stable Diffusion, for example, comes up like it might very easily come up with like super janky 6 fingers, and it's not unusable, but it's time a trade-off. So it's like, do you want your money or do you want your time? So for me, I pay for these services because it's super fast and the result is reliable. Jeffrey, you had a question?
Hello. When you say that you can just copy and paste like a mood board and it just becomes a code, how does one create, I guess, what's your workflow for creating the mood board and then turning it into a code? For example, I want to design for another event and I kind of have honed down on the aesthetic and I want to use that aesthetic to kind of build more. How did you create like a Edge City Patagonia code?
Yeah, in Midjourney, there's the mood board in Midjourney is very, very easy to use. Basically, you go to mood boards and you can just like add a new mood board. Here, add a new mood board. And then I think the trick is picking the right asset to figure out like what works well. For example, I think right now among all the mood boards, the one that works the best is this Vibrant. I call it Edge Vibrant, and it has all the assets from previous work. And this works really well because the assets are super diverse, but still like when you squint your eye, you see a lot of blue skies. So everything I generate here just have a lot of blue skies. Similar with the Patagonia mood board where I have these images, but then whenever I use Patagonia mood board, it just makes a lot of mountains in the back because all the mood board has a lot of mountains. So yeah, the technical process is very, very easy. You just get all your images together and then just create a mood board here and then upload all your images and then start using that in Midjourney. But I think the trickier part is have a great selection of very diverse mood board. And then a lot of that comes from trials and errors. You're just gonna try a bunch of times. Like I created this blueprint mood board that has all these technical blueprints. And I can share some of the results. So the creation out of it looks like these blueprints. And sometimes if you can combine mood boards. So I combine the blueprint mood boards with other collage mood boards and create something super interesting like this. Like it has a little bit of blueprints, but it also have other aesthetics. So I highly like this one is super fun. I highly encourage you to just like get as many interesting mood boards as you want and try to like mesh them together. And then in that way, you often create something new. Like this one is really cool.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, another question?
Yeah. So in Midjourney, when you're in the iteration process, what are you doing with the prompt? Do you add a few words to try to find that missing piece that you're wanting? And then related, are you trying to find a reference photo and then iterate off that, or are you just like continually?
I think
doing
it's
fresh photos?
both. Yeah, sometimes you want to refine your prompt and sometimes you want to use a different photo. So the prompt and reference photos are both really essential. And like I usually start with one really simple prompt and just see when you use less prompt, you're giving the AI more agency to imagine things. When you use a more specific prompt, you're saying like, I want to be more in control. And after you use it enough time, you realize that AI does have its limitation. Because if I prompt a green alien, the AI like very much knows what a green alien looks like, and it can very easily give you a green alien. But if you want to say a green alien is eating a burrito while riding a tricycle and hanging out with 7 other purple aliens and on top of the skyscraper surrounded by jungles with like tropical birds, like the more complicated and the more diverse your elements are, the harder of a time an AI is gonna be able to help you to make it cohesive. So it's a bit of a trade-off. And some easy hacks for prompt is a prompt should have its subject and should be like kind of descriptive. So let's say if you want to say a green alien, what's the background? Like, is it like clear background? Because if it is, you should say like a green alien in front of a white background. And you can say it's a portrait photography so that there's no noise in the background. Or you can say a green alien standing in the grassy field and then under blue sky and there is 2 clouds and there's 1 bird by the green alien. So the more specific, the more AI can be specific. And then I have another point, but it's kind of like, oh yeah. And then another great way to learn how to prompt better is just go to the Explore tab and see how other people do it. Let's say this one it's very like ready to use. It's almost like if someone want to tattoo this, there's almost no arrow, and you can see this is like what they're saying. They're saying it's a vintage line drawing of a snake, blah blah, blah, mouth open. And Midjourney makes it super simple. So when you click on it, it goes into your prompt, and you can kind of just submit and see what comes out of it. And so a lot of times you can find what other people have prompted, and then put it in your own prompt, and then go up and then change a word or so to see if that changes. This is really useful, and then I find it super useful when I'm using Korea because it's real time. It allows you to understand how prompting work a lot faster. So let's say over here I can say, what's the difference between adding the word extremely realistic plus removing it? It's not really that much difference. But then what if you say woman crying, and then you see like the faces of the fish, or I can say the fish is crying, and then you can kind of like it's not really crying, but anyways, you can kind of use this as a way to really practice how you prompt. And I think there's infinite amount of depth into how good prompts are composed. And it just, for every person, you just have your own different hacks and cheats. Oh, I remember what I wanted to say. So you have your subject, and then you can also have the style description. So this is something that makes a huge difference. So let's say I want to see vintage computer surrounded by flowers in front of blue sky. And what I can also say is extremely vibrant oil painting. And with impressionist brush stroke of a vintage computer in front of blue sky. And then let's see, I'm just gonna use the default mood board and see what happens. And then I can change this oil painting to like stylized cartoony illustration of a vintage, and then the same subject, then you can kind of change the prompt, or Fuji film vintage photography fish eye lens of a vintage company. And then we'll just see, it's three of them is gonna have slightly different style. So you have the style, and then you have the subject, and when you have the both pieces, that's pretty much 90%. And sometimes when you want specific color, you can just say pink, blue, only pink and blue, or you can say black and white, or you can add a reference image that is black and white, and then see which one do you like the most.
Awesome. While we wait for this to load, I had another question about copy.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine there's two ways to do it. It could be just an easy overlay for something like the face. You just put it on the top left on Photoshop or something. But then in this computer instance where maybe you want some text on the computer,
Mm-hmm.
I imagine that would be more difficult because it's slanted and you have to work it in with the aesthetic. Like, how do you go about adding copy to these?
Yeah, adding text. I mean, like text is really hard to prompt, like if you give AI a paragraph and be like, put it here. So I would just use Illustrator, I would use Figma, and I would use Photoshop to add copy. And then in the end, I think it's just about the polishing. Let's say if you want to have like a bit of text, alien party day, and then, you can kind of like, I think there's a free transform. Let me see, free transform. One of these, and then you can kind of, I'm doing a really bad job, but transform, you can like kind of like scale, skew, rotate. And in the end, a good cheat code to make these cohesive is just by adding a layer of filter or adding some noise. For example, this copy, like right now, it just looks like a graphic overlay. But what you can do is you can give it some sort of filter, maybe noise or blur. Maybe I would just give like a general blur filter. And then basically wait, let me see. I think I need to rasterize this. You basically do some sort of, post-processing to make the whole thing looks cohesive. But then if you wanted to, let's say, maybe what you were asking is like if there's a computer screen and you want a text in there, then that is a little bit trickier. What I would do is, I don't know if I have time for this, but we can try it. So I would do is like align the copy, for example, in here, and then combine the two layers and then use prompt to like make it more cohesive in a way. But honestly, I think I would need to like actually spend some time to like experiment to see what figures out, and I don't think I have time to figure out right here. But we can explore that later today. But to summarize the answer, it's a lot of manual work to make that more cohesive. And just 1 second. So now we can see there's 3 different. This is the oil painting of computer surrounded by flowers, and then this is stylized cartoon illustration, and this is like the film photography. So it's very, very different vibes. But the more precise you are with like the style that you want, the more stylized result you get. And yes, Diego?
Yeah, what about for the printing size or the quality you need to have the images to be printed, like because you're mixing this program with maybe Photoshop.
Yeah, to you mean to make it really large?
Yeah, how you manage to print those?
Yeah, the good thing is that for oil painting and things like that, it's even if it's not as precise, it's fine because it's very abstract. It's not like a photography. I think Midjourney, it does upscale to 2K in resolution. And then you can take it to a tool like Krea, for example, in the enhancer, where, let me see, like this flying saucer, for example, I think I enhanced it to like 5,000 pixel by 6,500. That's pretty good, but then you can enhance again. So it does like a lot of the AI upscale tool allows you to just make it super detailed. Let's see if I can see the difference. Not a ton of difference, but if you zoom in more, maybe you see a little bit more of. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah. You just need to upscale it in a way. So, like, in this way, it's not going to be super pixelated. I think each of these is like a few thousand, 10,000 pixels or something height. But Krea has a upres, but there's a ton of AI tools that automatically upres it for you, which is very convenient. Okay, let me see what else. So, and I think afterwards, I think we're coming close to the hour. I have a few other showcase of examples of some super fast client work that I did to talk about. So each of these client work, I had 1 week to just generate a mood board and make vibes. And they don't really want anything super precise, so all they want is vibes. So I can quickly talk about them as a case study. They are for 2 really awesome startups. So this number 1 startup is this project called Constellation. And it's a neurotech startup that uses EEG sensor to map out like brain data to solve like psychological problems like depression and things. And when we talked with the founder, like these are the things that we kind of took notes. They want the art to somehow show EEG. They want the art to feel like very neurotechy, but because the company is called Constellation, they also wanted it to be stars and, you know, like the universe. So we started putting into some initial mood board of just brains and stars, and then drawing some logo. This is irrelevant. And then we started just like generating based on some ideas, like what does it look like if there's a piece of brain and clouds? And then we used, I think the style reference here we used is René Magritte, which is a really awesome serial artist. So he uses work like this and has a very interesting, very specific kind of oil painting tone. So in our creative process, we prompted, okay, we want this image to feel like René Magritte, and we want it to be like a brain and it's made of clouds, and more or less you'll get results like this. So we started with some of these, and then with this image, for example, when we generated it, I don't really have the raw thing, it was able to generate most of the shape, but in the back here, it was all super messed up. Like it was very, very janky. It wasn't like very legible. So we have to go into Photoshop and paint it to create this vibe. But basically with AI, you get 80% of the work done and you just have to manually fix it. Then a few more iterations. Then in the end, we came up with this different version where it was kind of a René Magritte, but something more vibrant. And then we had to overlay a bunch of these little PNG sequences in front to make it very, very bespoke and cohesive. And this is more just like a kind of sprint that we did in a week. And without AI tool, I don't think we will be able to produce these kind of images in a week. And that's kind of just the incredible capability that we have now as creators. And another really fun work that we did is with this startup called Dialectica, where they want to talk about I think it's a truth-seeking AI company where they want to talk about like having different AI agents to debate to come up with the best answer to serve to the user. And the original mood board that we started with the founder was he found this image that I made for Edge Esmeralda, and he just loved this image. He's like, I want something like this. Like, it feels like oil painting, really romantic, but there's also digits and technical things. How can I do that? So we used this image as the original seed of the mood board. And from there, we added a bunch of other mood board, like what's the history of dialogues, debate, philosophical debate. Found out a lot with these esoteric drawings from Midjourney and putting things like this together. And then we elaborated on these mood board and started generating images that look like this. So like something golden, like Plato or Aristotle talking about the stars with math formula overlay. Just started to kind of toss ideas out there. And then a few iterations later, we also use something like this image and then use that as a seed to generate images that look very similar to that. And then use these images as a seed to generate more images on top of it. And then a few different explorations, explore with Blueprint, explore with like these neon, dark mode. And then explore with the Pink Floyd idea because the client really loves Pink Floyd. So I personally think that this is really cool, but they didn't want this direction. And in the end, we landed on something like this, which is not the super high definition. It was kind of like, it's good, but it's not super legible. So we had to do a bunch of up-res, manual pixing, and then in the end came up with a set of images that look like this, which looks really, really bespoke. Yeah, the client's goal is to be able to hang this massive painting on his office. So I think he was very, very happy with these outcome. This one is my favorite. It's just a happy accident with all these like pixelated things, but it turned out looking really great. So yeah, and this one is also really good. It's very up-res overlay. Overlay is just in Photoshop. You just have different layers. There's this one trick I found out in Photoshop recently that I really loved. I don't know if I kept it somewhere, but let me see. It's one of the posters I made. Not here, but I mean, I don't know if I have time to explain it. But basically, you can have two images in Photoshop and you combine it into one, and then the intersection of the two images, you can kind of. Well, actually, let's try it. Let's try using Rene Magritte's. Do I still have time? Is there more? Okay. Let's use these two images and then maybe this pipe. Okay, this is a live demo. I have no idea if this is gonna turn out well, but let's just give it a try. So yeah, let's see if it will go well. So we downloaded these two images from Magritte, and we have this pipe, and then we have this image. And let's see if we want, I'm gonna be super ambitious, if we can like get these two people to come out from the pipe. Let's see if that is like the idea. So you want this here, and then you want the pipe somewhere here. And then like we can say, okay, this two images is coming out from this pipe. I have no idea if we can get this done on time, but let's see. So what I want to do is probably you can go into here, select subject, hopefully select the pipe. Otherwise, yeah, it select the pipe. And then you separate this layer, so you just have this pipe. And then you have these, and then you can go into this layer and then click select subject. This is also very new. Like before that, you will have to manually select your subject yourself. But now Midjourney has this Photoshop has this smart selection. And then, yeah, and then what I can do, a really easy hack is just combining these into one layer. Now they're one layer. And then you can kind of like circle here, right? This empty space. And then you can just generate without any prompt. And let's see what AI do to make sense of it. It could be really wacky. We'll see. We'll see. because Photoshop AI is very good with context, so I actually understand it really well. Okay, this is not that bad, you know. So right now, before we had this, and now with AI, without any context, it kind of generate this image, and it's following my guidance with the painting. So we can do something like, okay, maybe we can be more precise, going into the hole here, and then we can prompt a word like smoke coming out from the pipe, oil painting from Rene Magritte, and then C. So this could be a little bit more precise. I don't know if this is what you were asking about UpRes, but this is kind of like a recent hack that I found, that you can use Photoshop to put two separate images together and somehow make it cohesive. And then after this, you just put it into another AI tool to UpRes it from like 2K to 4K. This is pretty good. This one is okay. Yeah. And then if this looks still too weird, you can kind of circle this. You can select this, deselect it, and then just generate black stars background. And then we were able to pretty much put together an image in under a minute. So I think that's it for the workshop. Do we have another workshop coming after? Is that all right? Then I'm gonna wrap up right now. Thank you all for coming. Come find me if you have. Look, here we come. It's out. Woo. And yeah, if you have any question, you can come find me later. Thank you.